me!
It's finally here, guys. After many years of me saying, they're never gonna remake Battle for Bikini Bottom, guys. It's never gonna happen. Until suddenly...
Hi, how are you?
And lo and behold, the remake just released on every major console available. That alone is incredibly rare for a tie-in game. Well, except for like GoldenEye, which did have a remake or two, but most people I know don't really associate the game with the movie it's based on, since it could be its own Bond game amongst others that serve as standalone games. But a SpongeBob game remake is something special. A game with only such a huge cult following could be the cause of. I've gotten countless requests to cover this game ever since I reviewed Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, and this game has been on my wishlist for a long time, so it's about time I bury the demon of not doing this sooner, as there's no better time to cover it than now. But without further delay, let's finally jump into SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
Ah shit, I forgot about this part.
Aye, aye, Captain!
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
You know, I love how you can just casually skip over the developer's intro, but every time you pop in this game, you cannot for the life of you skip this completely butchered version of the already pretty cringy theme song. Thank God we kept that in, right guys?
No.
The plot of the game is that Plankton has invented a machine able to create his own robot army to steal the Krabby Patty's secret formula and take over Bikini Bottom in the process. But Plankton moronically and hilariously flipped the don't obey switch, and now the robots begin wreaking havoc on Bikini Bottom and kick out Plankton.
No! No! Oh, my good China!
Yo, what did you say?
My good China!
You know, that only proves the point that Karen is the man in this relationship. At the same time this is happening, SpongeBob and Patrick are wishing they had real robots to play with. So Patrick comes up with the idea to use his magic wishing shell to create lots of little robots. Wait, how will that work?
Last week, I only had one big cookie crumb and I was really hungry, so I put my cookie crumb in the magic wishing shell, then I said the magic wishing word and shook it, and in the morning I had lots of little cookie crumbs!
So, does that mean Patrick is responsible for Plankton's plan and these scenes are just put in the wrong order? I mean, with him wishing for cookie crumbs and getting them the next day, I can only surmise that's the answer. Patrick is the true god of wrath. The next day, they wake up to find that the robots have already began vandalizing and rampaging all throughout Bikini Bottom. So it's up to SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy to team up and rid their town of robot tyranny.
I don't wanna...
Yeah, well, too fucking bad, SpongeBob! The game is spread across 12 levels, including Bikini Bottom acting as the hub world, and each level can be opened with a certain number of golden spatulas you can unlock by either doing tasks or making it to the end of most levels.
It's as simple as that.
Now, I've beaten this game about 5 times in my whole life, and the one time I played it for the sake of this review, I was pretty much convinced this game has the same style as a traditional Mario game, specifically Super Mario 64. But some years have passed since my last time, and I've come to realize the style is more resemblant to Banjo-Kazooie. Because in that game, there are several golden collectibles in which the levels are designed around for you to collect, and with the right knowledge and power-ups, you can get each one of them in one level run without having to exit, unlike Mario that has to reset its level and kick you out every time you get a power star. I might be generalizing the genre a bit, but I don't think I'm too far off from that statement.
Well, I guess you're off the scale, Spork Mountain.
You mean Spiral Mountain? I'm 24 now, game. You're not fooling me anymore.
Darn it.
The very first stage in SpongeBob's house is a great introduction as you get to explore every well-known room from the show whilst testing out the controls and learning about collecting items along the way. Not to mention, every time you achieve something, you get this really cheerful fanfare. That alone, as a child, made me feel special. I really got that feel of accomplishment, and even now I still do. Except, I don't know what this is. And maybe I'm glad I don't. Along the way, you run into some of SpongeBob's most memorable characters with either a task for you to complete or to teach you a new move. And almost all are hilarious in the same vein of absurdity that the show is.
So, what are you supposed to be? I'm a starfish. What are you?
I'm a figment of SpongeBob's imagination.
Oh, that makes sense.
Follow the instructions on the signs that you see. At the end of the caves, you'll still be a big pink idiot, but you'll know enough to help defeat the robots and get me back into the chum bucket.
Why do you want all that artwork?
Don't ask questions you aren't prepared to handle the answer to.
And a random thought, this one time you talk to Gary amongst many in this game is one of my favorites since he and SpongeBob talk to each other like a couple at SpongeBob's friends party.
You want to leave now? Meow. I know it's my dream, but I want you to stay. Aw, thanks, buddy.
Each level you make these encounters in is relishing with the feel of the show, and you truly feel like you're part of it. Jellyfish Fields, Downtown Bikini Bottom, Sand Mountain, Goo Lagoon, Rock Bottom, the Mermalair,
Yay!
Sandy's Tree Dome, the Krusty Krab, even though those two are just kind of a one challenge area, and even Spongebob's Dream, where you can enter several dreams and do challenges associated with that character's dream. You fight the robots in Krab's Money Pit. You jump across musical notes to reach Squidward's big nose. You surf across a slide hovering over Texas. Just don't fall in the manure.
I hate manure.
And Patrick has absolutely nothing in his mind. That's hilarious. That's brilliant. All these little nuances add so much humor to these places from the show. Like when you walk into the chum bucket, all you hear are crickets chirping. Absolutely perfect. Also, I'm sorry I've barely delved into the actual game functionality of this game, but I just wanted to sing this game's praises on its presentation to the show, but I'll get more into that along the way. As mentioned before, you often switch between playing as SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy, and they all have a different moveset that contributes to progression. SpongeBob and Patrick have basically the same moveset, like hitting enemies and ground pounds, but SpongeBob has an uppercut used to hit hovering enemies or floating buttons and tikis, a cruise bubble torpedo you receive later in the game to reach really far away projectiles, and who could forget?
It's a new power! The Bubble Bowl!
That's right!
And Patrick has the ability to throw fruit and robots, whether to hit high up buttons, use a teeter-totter to get across large gaps, or use freeze fruit to throw and slide across frozen goo to reach collectibles. And yes, that underwater looking water is goo. Even though in Goo Lagoon they said the goo rising was water, that makes no sense.
Water rising must get to higher ground.
And Sandy can be used to glide across large gaps with her lasso, as well as swinging across Texas tailgate hooks to get across even larger gaps and attack enemies from a distance. But you can't choose any character whenever you want, as you can only change them when a bus stop is around, which will only appear when an objective in that area is needed with a separate character to complete. So the younger kids this game was aimed towards wouldn't be wandering around as a character they shouldn't be just yet. Not to mention, the controls are super tight, so everything responds exactly how you want to, and it's super fun to play. Even more fun when you're sliding down Sand Mountain, pulling off sick jumps with kick-ass music to accompany it.
Oh, there once was a Tin Man.
Not to mention, the whole soundtrack to this game is just fantastic and gives off just the right vibe for each level. Whether you're prancing around Bikini Bottom, roaming the beaches of Goo Lagoon, fighting against the menacing Patrick robot in the industrial park, and even making your way through a superhero lair.
You're my hero.
Hey, you're yellow. When did that happen?
By the way, these character models are just so perfect. Everyone just bounces from the show in just the right three-dimensional style, and much less awkward than the Dutchman game, or even the Fairly OddParents game.
Bobby, cut it out!
Plus, the shadows and how light reflects off of them is just perfect. And as mentioned before, that can only be matched by the lovable voice actors from the show brought back for the game. Except for Mr. Krabs and Mermaid Man. Clancy Brown couldn't reprise his role as Mr. Krabs since he was busy providing the voice for Baron Praxis in Jak 2.
You should at least be dead with all the dark eco I pumped into you.
And Ernest Borgnine, I can only assume because at his age it doesn't seem as vital as providing Mermaid Man's voice in the show. Both are instead voiced by Joe White, and no offense to this voice actor, I'm sure he's decent elsewhere, but here he sounds almost nowhere near the original voices.
SpongeBob, this flapping robot crisis is making the Krusty Krab lose money like a sinking ship.
Actually, it's a good thing you showed up, young sponge of goodness.
I mean, come on, even I can supply these voices better.
Alright, listen up, boys. We're having a mandatory inspection meeting tonight. Anyone who doesn't pass gets the boot. It's this boot right here. It's very stinky. You have to wear it all day.
Also, there are one or two dirty jokes I never caught when I was a kid that are only more hysterical now.
And now back to your regular programming. Retirement Home Girls Gone Wild.
Wow, I'm disgusted and entertained at the same time. just like the show.
I was in an undesirable position yesterday, and now my neck hurts.
What undesirable position, Patrick?
I want penis!
Ew.
As for the collectibles, your main objective is to collect golden spatulas, similar to Banjo-Kazooie's jigsaw pieces, and each level has a certain number required to enter. There are just about 100 to collect throughout the whole game, but you really only need 75 in order to face the final boss, and unless you're a die-hard completionist, I'd say go with the latter, considering this game is a lot of fun, but the 100% completion is not worth it because all you get is the characters lip-syncing the unskippable butchered song that you already couldn't skip from the title screen. So what makes you think I want to waste all my time just to unlock something I've tried to skip every time I pop in this game? Some golden spatulas you can obtain from collecting smaller things like Patrick's socks or shiny pieces that can be sold to Mr. Krabs, but because I'm such a fucking badass at this game, I only got some from Patrick, gave nothing to Mr. Krabs because honestly he's kind of a piece of shit here.
Why would I want to break the tikis, Mr. Krabs?
Because they were laughing at you and calling you funny names.
What kind of funny names?
Spongebob Butt Pants.
That's not very funny.
No. But they said your mom was ugly.
Also, this game really expects you to collect everything too, because even if you defeat the final boss with only just enough spatulas, the game reminds you there's still more out there. Like, screw that, I'm not going out there to get 40,000 shiny pieces just for some concept art. Hell, some of the concept art is sprinkled around the museum and rock bottom just to soften the blow. Some of them are actually interesting though, like there's concept art for SpongeBob character skins resemblant to the Dutchman game, and episodes airing around this game's release, and a Squidward robot boss battle that never made it to the final products, except they are putting it in the Rehydrated edition. But I'm not that far in to say anything. Speaking of which, now's a good time to talk about the boss battles. The main bosses come up in each third of the game, which include giant robots of Sandy, Patrick, and SpongeBob, and again, all in locations from the show, like the Poseidome, the Industrial Park, and the Chum Bucket. Some start out easier than others, but each get progressively more challenging, but nothing teeth-grindingly hard. And each one has a great colorful commentary by the realistic fish head to accompany it. There's also smaller bosses within every few levels, including King Jellyfish, the Flying Dutchman. Oh, come on! I put you back in your bottle at the end of the last game!
But what about our deal?
SpongeBob, with that glitched out face, you are in no position to deal with anything except hardcore narcotics. And in the Merma layer, you fight Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy's greatest foe yet.
Who is it? Man Ray? The atomic flounder? The dirty bubble? No, worse than that. He's your archenemy. Prawn.
Oh no, not Prawn! Wait, who?
Did someone call? Oh, I thought maybe I was looking at superheroes. But now I see it's just a couple of pieces of gnarled driftwood.
Who are you? Okay, come on now, is this the best they could do? What about those other well-known supervillains Mermaid Man just name-dropped? Why couldn't they get Man Ray or the Dirty Bubble? Was it because they couldn't get their original voice actors? That didn't stop them from changing Mermaid Man or Mr. Krabs' voices, but here we are! But yeah, Prawn was just another pawn. That's like having the third Spider-Man MCU film come out and having Peter Parker fight against Frogman. The only scary thing about him is the risk of getting warts. Also, why would you stack a bunch of tikis together like this? Only to have me expose it to the internet and make meme trash like this is why.
SpongeBob, what are you doing?
Just hanging around?
Boo!
Not to mention, if you die going down a hill during a time trial, it'll send you back to the previous checkpoint, but without the timer, which means you either have to complete the stage as is, or go back to the top and try again. And as annoying as that is, you can thankfully do that just by clicking on a different spatula in the pause menu. The golden spatulas represent a completed task, and the regular gray spatulas represent a task you've come across but not yet completed. And a question mark just means you haven't come across that task or level yet. And thankfully, if there is a spatula visible with a task you can complete, you just tap the button twice and it'll send you straight to that task.
It's as simple as that.
It's such a breeze not having to run everywhere when the pause menu can take you from point A to point B in about 7 seconds. But again, with the Sand Mountain stage, it kinda sucks you can only do the time trials as SpongeBob, even though you can change it to Sandy in these stages. But they won't give you the task if you're Sandy because all she's used for is replay value to go around and split paths of the mountain to collect socks and unlock other hidden paths. Maybe they don't use Sandy for time trials because she's kind of overpowered and puts them at a disadvantage? Kinda like how in Avatar where the other airbenders won't let Aang play the game they created with a move he created just because him being the Avatar puts them at a disadvantage. What a bunch of little shits. But by this time, I feel like I've said everything I wanted to about this game. Honestly, when talking about tie-in games, this one stands out as one of the absolute best, and I'm so glad I was able to finally cover it in this video. Everything to love about the first 3 seasons of the show is encapsulated here, all for you to play in this absolutely delightful and ridiculously fun game. This game not only stands out as a great tie-in game, but it's also just a really good game. Can you at least understand now why a tie-in game from 2003 with such a cult following as this can get an HD remake in 2020? I certainly can. And if you're still curious what made everyone love this game enough to remake it, hopefully this video will have you convinced otherwise. So with that said, if you can find yourself a copy of this game and truly experience what the greatest SpongeBob game is like, check it out and see for yourself.